Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a beautiful 13th of July, 2021. Coming up on this week's podcast, or today's podcast, is priorities. Our Prime Minister has none. 20 churches? Meh, I'm on tour. What's that about Cuba, Papa? All that and more and other political blunderings come up in the show. Stick around.
Hit it, sweetheart. Because I am hard, you will not like me. Yes, sir. There is no racial bigotry here. Here you are all equally worthless.
From Western Canada, this is the Crusty Canuck podcast, a Canadian veteran's point of view on political, social, economic issues and life. Here's Crusty.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Episode 141 of the Crusty Canuck podcast, Priorities. Our Prime Minister has none. If you like and hear what you see, please click like and subscribe, all that good stuff. And just as a reminder, listener and viewer discretion is advised. I tend to drop some swear words and I do some unlawful gestures with my hands. You decide. Anyway, priorities. Yes. In the past few days, the Prime Minister has been touring around the country, promoting his childcare benefits and all that kind of stuff, just to win votes, hearts, and minds. And, well, needless to say, there hasn't been really much in the lights of him promoting any kind of transparency. We've all heard the conspiracies and we've seen the facts and figures on the so-called polling experts, what have you. And yet nothing just seems to be really congruent with anything political that promotes democracy or transparency or fairness. Now, like I said in the last episode, ladies and gentlemen, I am a firm believer in truth and reconciliation, regardless of what happened to the First Nations, regardless of what happened to this group of people or that group of people. We got to find the truth regardless. And now in the summer of our discontent, we're not seeing it. We're not seeing the transparency. We're not seeing the gestures. We're not seeing the honesty. We're not seeing the integrity. And that's from all big three political leaders, as far as I'm concerned. So when it comes to priorities, ladies and gentlemen, you would think that the Prime Minister would have the cojones or the gumption to actually try to promote and bridge the gaps that were being promoted since 2015. Okay. And we're not seeing it. We're not seeing it, folks. And the past few days, I've had a lot of thinking to do in regards to my future as a podcaster and my future as someone who will speak out. And my future, hopefully, in politics, if they do call an election. That's if I have a future in politics. That's if they do call a proper election. We don't know. But the thing being is that regardless of what's going on, okay, in the world today, especially here in Canada, our beloved Canada, and I'm sure some of my American viewers and European viewers can attest to this, regardless of what conspiracies are coming to surface, I think we will prevail regardless. Okay. Now, I've had a few emails from some great fans there the past couple of days. A couple individuals giving me facts and figures in regards to what some doctors are saying, what some doctors are doing. And because I do not believe in doxing or exposing people for their opinions, unless they're downright tyrants or pedophiles, what have you. Okay. I am not going to throw their names out here in the podcast, whether I do the video or the audio, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm not going to do that, but they've given me some good facts and figures in regards to what some doctors are saying and how so many doctors have been, lack of a better term, stifled, per se, have been chastised and censored, kind of like yours truly. Interesting. You don't follow this so-called norm. You don't follow this protocol. You don't think like us or act like us. Then we're going to have you fired. We're going to have you sued or have you chastised or have you ridiculed, right? The old tribalist mentality. You would think that we have evolved beyond that crap at one time. I guess not, right? But it's just getting, pardon my expression, just ridiculous. Anyhow, I want to say thank you to everybody who came out to Fastball Sunday this past Sunday. Thank you very much to my audience, my listeners out there too. And another welcome to El Sofia Rossetti. She's now part of our panel. Well done, El. Great presence, great questions, great talking points. Outstanding. And of course, my friend Adam, always a pleasure, my friend. Always a pleasure to have you on there. And to my buddy Fred there too. Sorry you couldn't make it, but we'll save you a spot for next week. So as I say, ladies and gentlemen, the Fastball Sunday is a go now. Every Sunday, 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Do not forget to subscribe, like, and share all that stuff around too. Right. And for those individuals that feel like donating, please donate. You'll see the link at the bottom of your screen there. Excuse me. Donate at crustycanuck.com/donations if you can there too. Just go to my webpage. I take PayPal and the Buy Me a Coffee application too. Since I lost my job about a week ago, please consider donating too. I'd like to make this a full-time position, and it's going to take great viewers and listeners such as yourself to make that happen. I'm about 8,000 so far on the YouTube page. So please consider donating. If I had $1 from every member of my page, wow, I'd be on my way to making some great content and getting things paid. But it's not like I'm not working for it, ladies and gentlemen. It takes some time and effort to put these episodes together, formulate what I'm going to say, what I'm going to do, line up all my facts and figures, put them on my description so you can decide for yourselves in a free thought society, as long as we have it. Knock on wood. Anyway, carrying on, more of the priorities too. Now, the Prime Minister even said how he's going to be looking after childcare and creating more transparency. But I have an audio file here from True North Media there too. I've had some trouble loading the video for some reason. Maybe because I'm kind of inept when it comes to this new fantangled technology. But needless to say, I'll let you decide if you can hear this now. Okay, sure. Oh, sorry. Premeditated. Preempted. Anyway, it's about 44 seconds of audio here. Trudeau was in Nova Scotia talking about his affordable childcare for everybody. And he was asked this question. And this is compliments of True North Media and the CPAC channel. So please pay attention.
Appears to have shut down the internet on the island after people took to the streets in unprecedented numbers to denounce the government. Will Canada condemn the communist regime's oppression of dissent, or do you agree with President Diaz-Canel that the U.S. embargo and Miami-funded mercenaries are to blame for the crisis?
We, as a country, Canada has always stood in friendship with the Cuban people. We have always called for greater freedoms and more defense of human rights in Cuba, and we will continue to be there to support Cubans in their desire for greater peace, greater stability, and greater voice in how things are going.
Interesting how he said in peace and security. He didn't say anything about democracy. Now, if you haven't heard, ladies and gentlemen, there's an uprising in Cuba right now as we speak. Communist country brought to you by Fidel Castro and Che Guevara, right? Big visionaries from the late 50s, early 1960s that made Cuba what it is today. Okay. Now, when I studied Cuba in high school and communism and all that kind of stuff, when I was a young, dumb, and full of cum, all that good stuff, I used to think communism briefly was a great idea. I used to think it was a fantastic idea when it came to looking after people and making sure everyone has medicine and food and a place to live and rah, 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 kumbaya, please tickle my balls, whatever. And something magical happened that time in my life. The Romanian Revolution happened. The Berlin Wall came down. Russia basically just, the model of the Russian Soviet system just went kaput. That was it. Done. Okay. Now, historically, Pierre Elliott Trudeau has always had a fascination with communism because he was a communist back in the 1940s and part of the 50s until he got into federal politics. And Justin isn't too far off because we all know how he likes to brag about how much he loves China's basic dictatorship and what have you, and they can turn their economy around on a dime and all this great stuff and finding green energy. Well, it's amazing how you can turn your economy around on a dime when people that work for you get paid fuck all. So of course you can turn your economy around. You don't have to pay people, for crying out loud. That's not a new thing. That's not a new dynamic. Okay. But after hearing that interview, okay, it was just a blurb. It wasn't the whole interview. Okay. Where did he say about Cuban strife to find democracy? What did he say about freedom for people? Okay. Where did he say there was freedom? Okay. None. Okay. So regardless of how you feel about Fidel Castro, who did amass quite a bit of wealth in his time prior to his death, and his brothers and their connections, because we all know how the communist parties work. It's about who you know. It's not about what you know. It's about who you know, right? And that's like a typical little high school clique, right? That's like a high school clique where if you go into a certain group or a certain social group, and you might get the advantages to better dances or the better quality of people. So people like to say, inside information on certain exams, inside information on certain teachers. It's no different than that old high school quagmire, right? It's no different. And yet here's the prime minister again. His priorities are stuck with winning an election. That's what it comes down to. It's winning an election. He doesn't give two shits about Cuba. He doesn't give two shits about us. He likes the idea of Cuba because he gets some perks and privileges based on whatever dealings they had, that his old man had with Fidel Castro back in the late 60s, early 70s. Okay. So it was a good question, I'd say, from that reporter, but basically it's just bullshit.
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
Yes, and part of the audio intrusion there, ladies and gentlemen, I got some issues with my recording devices here. But anyway, if you look at the bottom of the screen, please check out my merchandise at customizedgirl.com/forward/Crusty Canuck. Use the code ZZSS to get 10% off your purchases. So please check out my shop. And please, if there's an issue with this link, and now I've tried to rectify it, if there's an issue with the link at the bottom of your screen, just send me an email at my Gmail there. All my information is in my description. So please send me an email if you have issues with that. I've been in back and forth playing email tag with the folks at Customized Girl there. Something to do with the link not working or something not working for them. However, if you do want to buy something from my shop, please consider 10% off. We've got hats, we got t-shirts, got mugs, got stickers, got swimsuits, got shorts, and other items for your viewing and possibly purchasing pleasure too. So please check out my shop. Just follow the instructions at the bottom of your screen. Anyway, carrying on with priorities too. So we're not seeing a lot of priorities from the prime minister. Last episode, I put a link from Rebel Media where Drea Humphrey there was basically more or less manhandled and moved aside from the prime minister because she was asking direct questions. And I'll leave a video in the description for you, ladies and gentlemen, to decide for yourselves on what has to be done about that. Now, regardless if you like this media or like that media or like this paper or like that TV show or this TV show, okay? As far as I'm concerned in this country, it doesn't really matter, okay, what news source you represent. If you're in the public eye, doesn't matter if you're a politician, doesn't matter if you're a star athlete or a movie star or a beautiful piano player or a member of the Hollywood Squares. I really don't give a shit. You're in the public eye. You should have the capability to answer any question that comes your way. Because we all know politicians are big manipulators and word salad galore and all this other bullshit. And the magic word that both of our countries, in Canada and the States are using is the filibuster format, right? But I'll ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to watch that video when I put it in my description and decide for yourselves how that situation was handled, okay? And the sheer arrogance that came from that man, nobody, our prime minister, more or less saying, I'm sorry, I've answered all my questions for today. It just goes to show how much he really cares about the people around him. I'm sorry, sir, you don't have the time to answer these questions. Oh, you got better things to do? What? Sit around and slap and tickle your backers? What? Check out the waves in Tofino? Maybe I might go surfing a couple times this year before they actually have the balls to call an election? I'm sorry, sir, you're above that. That's the example that we are being given. And what gets me too is, like we said in Fastball and my last episode too, let's look at the voter base, okay, of these clowns. Let's look at the voter base when it comes to the Canadian taxpayer and how much the Canadian taxpayer means to these people. Obviously, they don't mean too much because they don't have the time to answer questions, right? And what gets me too is that he was confronted about the churches that are being set ablaze. Okay. And I've had a few people weigh in on my Facebook page recently telling me about the whole issue and about churches and how some people think that the Catholics should be punished and the Anglicans should burn and all this stuff. And I'm not going to display their names or their email links, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, I don't believe in doxing. I don't believe in that crap at all. But it gives me a consensus of how some people really, really hate the church. Now, I disagree with the church entirely. I do. I don't believe that the earth was created by one sentient being and he put a notional Adam and a notional Eve on the plateau of what we call planet Earth. I don't believe that. Okay. I don't believe that there was one man who had this message of this and message of that, and all of a sudden we have to cater to it. And that's just my opinion. But I'm not saying to any devout Christian or any devout Muslim or any devout Jew or any devout Buddhist or any devout Scientologist, there I said it, you can't practice your gospel and you can't preach your gospel. Okay. I'm not saying anybody out there of any faith cannot preach their faith or worship by their own means. Okay. But setting fire to churches, whether it's an individual represents this group or an individual of that group, how are you going to create an understanding and dramatic change by destroying property? Right? Something that stands for 100 years, oh, just burn it down. No. You look at a lot of those reservations that have had those churches, and regardless of what history dictated at the time, there are still able-bodied human beings that happen to be indigenous that still go to these churches and enjoy them, that still use the services, that use it for a community outreach, that use it for a purpose bigger than just the ideology. Okay? And I personally know some First Nations that are Christian. And it doesn't bother me at all if they believe in this gospel or if they believe in that. I don't care what you believe in. It's how you are as a person, how you treat people. Okay? I have met Christians in my life that sit there and they swear by the Bible and they swear about this scripture and swear by this. And yet they're the first one to take a drink and slap their kids around. I've also met Christians that swear by this doctrine and swear by this precedence and talk about this passage and that passage. And they were the first ones to cheat on their spouses. So it's all shapes and sizes, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Overseas, we met Muslims that are devout family people. And yet there were a couple of them who like to play with little kids. Overseas, too, there were some Muslims we met that didn't want to give us the time of day. But in the same sense, they show us where to go to hide or to find certain bombs. You catch my drift? So it has nothing to do with what gospel you preach or what faith you believe in. It's how you treat other people. That's what it comes down to, folks. And by burning all these churches down and typing online saying, well, it's about time or it's about this, do you really think you're helping the situation out?
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
And also, too, folks, if you can, please join me on Supercast. Supercast.tech. Crusty Canuck at supercast.tech, please. You can join me there. $5 a month. It gets you all of my audio episodes censorship-free. Hopefully, it all depends if C-36 does get passed in some kind of shadow cabinet. Who knows exactly what's going on with this? But I don't know. Please join me there if you can, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, carrying on again with episode 141. Priorities. Do we have them? Well, we all know Justin Trudeau has no priorities because he's out tooting his own horn to hear the sound of his own voice, right? Like I mentioned that audio I played for you earlier. Does he really give a shit about democracy? Now, I hope Cuba all the best. I hope every country all the best. Okay? I hope every country that wants freedom all the best. Okay? Every person, every citizen that wants freedom to be and to express themselves and to live their lives freely without all these regulations and mandates, I hope all the best. But see, my priority here now, too, is Canada, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm not going to say to you, my audience that come from other countries, that should be Canada. Your country, your community, your family, your friends, your way of life should be your priority. Okay? But to my Canadian fans and viewers and listeners out there, look at what's lying ahead based on the example that I played for you. And especially in the mainstream media when it comes to how Justin likes to toot this virtual horn. And how all of his followers and backers are doing the same. Okay. Now, I don't have a lot of links to back up my claims here, but to make a long story short, folks, I think you know exactly what Justin is doing. Breads and circuses. That simple. Oh, we're going to have mandatory childcare because this will make it easier for you. So more tax dollars that come from the provinces to the federal kitty, and the federal kitty will distribute it accordingly, right? Wealth management. And they've done such a great job on that, haven't they? Yeah. And his stance towards what's going on in Cuba, too. How was that beneficial? Like I said, he never talked about freedom or democracy. Talked about security. Yeah, okay. And I'd like to know, too, what some of these American Democrat leaders are talking about as well. Because I remember Bill Clinton, being a Democrat, telling Fidel Castro he better grow up and start learning things. When will he ever know that you can't hold people at ransom like that anymore? But now the American Democrat model is doing the exact same thing. We're not going to speak out against Cuba. No, Cuba's doing the right thing. Oh, it's just fantastic. They're doing a great job down there. Right? I'll leave a link to a Prager Union video, too, that was published there yesterday. And you, my audience, please click on the link in my description for more insight in that as well, to get a better idea from someone who actually visited Cuba, who has family in Cuba, too. Right? And here's a bit of test for my audience, too. Go out and talk to somebody that lived in a former Eastern Bloc country. Okay, I've talked to 3 people already, and I've had 2 of them featured in the Crusty Canuck podcast. Right? I had Artur Pawlowski, who grew up in Poland during the Solidarity years, and Susanna, she grew up in the Czech Republic during those last tumultuous years prior to the Berlin Wall coming down. And they've had some great stories talking about people we're listening in on when their conversations, or hearing this or hearing that, all this good stuff. And some of their perspectives and how they changed dramatically when they actually stepped foot in North America. Right? Now, my parents used to vacation in Cuba many moons ago, too. And they would tell me stories about how it was such a beautiful country and all this stuff. But they would see gates and signs set up for the populace, where the populace could venture and tourists were allowed to. Parts of buildings and parts of hotels and certain parts of the resorts, quote unquote, and the casinos, quote unquote, where tourists can venture and spend all their money. And yet there were citizens that did not dare go in certain areas, right? Because of the impact on the tourism industry. So since then, my father and my stepmother don't go to Cuba anymore because of that. How they start treating people, what have you. So that puts things in perspective too, ladies and gentlemen, And right now too, there's a lot of crap going on in South Africa. As we speak, you're getting regular citizens arming themselves to stop rioters from looting stores and businesses. And not to mention the farm killings that have been going on the past 5 or 10 years. But you're seeing more and more private citizens standing up with their own guns, with their own means to defend themselves, to stop rioters from coming in, to destroying and looting things, right? So I'm not sure if you're familiar with what's going on in South Africa right now. I've read some reports, and I've talked to some actual South Africans over the past year that don't really talk about a lot of it because of whether they're embarrassed or not, I'm not sure, but they don't really talk about the strife that has happened. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. If I do have any South African listeners, please let me know. You can reach me via email here, crustybcanuck67@gmail.com. But I'll put a link there from Lauren Southern, another Canadian. She's an actual journalist, I believe now. I think she is. She used to work for The Rebel. She does her own video series, quite outspoken and quite down to earth. I like watching her videos because she's pretty cool, just a genuine human being. So check her work out too. But I'll leave a link to an interview she just did with a citizen from South Africa in regards to what's going on there right now. So you're looking at Cuba fighting for freedom and South Africans fighting for freedom. And are we going to be in the same boat, ladies and gentlemen, if they do call an election? Right? All 3 major party candidates are coming around, touring the country. Trudeau in the East Coast doing his thing via video conference to look all important and meaningful, when we all know that he's basically full of poop, right? Mind you, he could charm the socks off a snake. No one will bat an eye. So it's something to think about.
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, too, please check me out on the Supercast channel as well. $5 a month. Get you all of my audio episodes, censorship free. So join me on Supercast, a Canadian-based company helping out Canadian podcasters such as myself and other up-and-comers as well. So please join me on Supercast today. And if you have any questions in regards to these links, please just send me an email. All my links and information, contact information will be in my description too. So carrying on again with priorities. We can honestly sit here and say that the past 6 years, okay, in our political spectrum, regardless if you liked Harper or if you like Jean Chrétien or you like Paul Martin, whatever, it's the same back and forth, blue, red, blue dynamic over and over again. Okay. So I'm not going to sit here and do a campaign speech because of my own personal political ambitions, but I'm going to plead with you, my audience, my fans, listeners alike, and newcomers too, the Crusty Canuck podcast. We have to start making better choices into who we're going to represent us. Now, we forget the basic dynamic that when you have a representative in your area or your riding, they're supposed to represent your interests, okay? Yours. That's how the parliamentary system should work, how they have to represent your interests per se, not the party's interests because they happen to be running here or running there, okay? Your interests. Now, I'm a member of the Veterans Coalition Party, okay? Our basic mandate is truth, honor, and integrity, okay? Simple things like that. My ambition is this. I want to represent my riding to the best of my ability based on what can be done here. And in our area, there's an issue with agriculture, an issue with oil, and there's also social issues too in regards to what you can say, what you can't say. And I made that example earlier, but the thing being is that we're all guilty of taking it for granted, ladies and gentlemen. We're all guilty of just voting for whatever guy we believe in because of the party. Okay, well, this guy's a liberal. I'm not going to vote for him because liberals did fuck all in Alberta to help us out here. Or I'm going to vote conservative because, well, you know, I've been brought up conservative and that's the way it is. And or I'm going to vote NDP because Natalie's got great hair, you know, like stupid shit like that, you know, and we're forgetting that the parliamentary system is based on representing your riding, your district, to my American listeners out there. Okay. And I'm not seeing a lot from a lot of our leaders out here. You know, I've heard people complain about Kennedy and complain about Notley, but I'm not seeing a lot of the riding experts in this area come out and say hello. They've offered town halls. That's great. But now that some of the restrictions are lifted, how come I'm not seeing these individuals driving around talking to people or setting up town halls? Considering all the three major parties in this country have quite a bit of cash in their bank accounts, they could spend extra money to get out there and talk to people. Now, when I do my campaign, guess where the expense is coming from? Me. Okay? It's not coming from the party. There is a fund and there is a budget for that. Okay? But it'll be me in my truck going out handing cards or pamphlets to people and speaking literally in the back of my truck with a microphone and a speaker, talking to people or arranging some kind of meeting, whatever, until we know when they call the election. There's some things we can't do in Canada prior to the election. But I think you get my point. And we're not seeing those priorities of the people being presented. Okay? And we know the system's not perfect. If there's such thing as a perfect system, we wouldn't have to have podcasts like this, or you wouldn't have to have this magazine. You wouldn't have to have that because everything would just be utopia, right? Puppy dogs, fairy tales, country fairs. Oh my. But we know it's not perfect. So it's all the more reasons for you, my listeners and viewers and fans alike, to question every representative in Parliament. And it doesn't matter if it's the provincial legislation or provincial parliament or federal. Okay? To call and email, ask the tough questions, whether it be live, whether it be via Zoom, because we know how Mr. Easter doesn't, think Zoom meetings are so hard to justify his, pay raise. Oh, what a joke that guy was. All right? So we have to think about that. And as a politician to be, I'm trying to think ahead here, trying to be positive. Okay. I'm not worried so much about the image. I'm worried about the foundation of things. Okay. People felt the charm and the banter in 2015 under Justin Trudeau. Sunny ways, sunny ways. Oh, sunny ways. Ooh, legalized marijuana. Oh, we're going to help veterans. Oh, we're going to upgrade our military. Right? Where's the clean water? What environmental programs did you instill on people to do better, to make better choices? No, you just took more money from people. Okay. Your cabinet has been caught doing some stupid things, spending money, doing favors for friends, little slaps and tickles here and there, little slaps and tickles here and there to help certain members of the fisheries, certain members of the oil conglomerate. Okay. That worries about getting the cheaper oil from Saudi Arabia to La Belle Provence. Okay. You've had environment ministers that can't make a solid decision in regards to how much money it's going to take to fix something. Yet there's tunes of how many billions of dollars being lost and taken away, right? Or invested in other countries when it should be invested here in Canada. So it's something to think about, folks. There's a whole list of bullshit that the Prime Minister and his office and his appointed cabinetees have done and have caused. We are in debt in this country because of the so-called pandemic, but it's not so much the pandemic. It's a matter of someone else writing a check at your expense. So we need people in this country that are going to write checks at your expense. I want you to write your own checks to buy and do what you want to do. I want you to thrive. I want you to prosper. We also believe in a flat tax rate too. So there's something in the works as well. And we also believe in the VCP that there should be a giant pay cut from the top down. Okay. So that's something to think about. And if you like, ladies and gentlemen, I'll leave a link in the description to the Veterans Coalition Party. So something to ponder this summer until they call an election. Okay. To you, my viewers out there, to people that are in this riding, to other ridings, what have you, don't be afraid to call these politicians. Don't be afraid to send them an email or actually write them a letter or send them a video message and tell them how you really feel. Okay. Because they're supposed to be representing you. They're supposed to be representing you. And I can honestly say they're not doing that great of a job. Now, I've had some help with some politicians a few years back in regards to getting my benefits sorted out, and I'm forever grateful for that. And there's a few friends of mine in the veteran circle that have had the same thing, and they've had to fight like hell, tooth and nail, to get papers sorted, to get this okayed and that permission and that's this process. Like, you see the red tape thing. And this government, their priorities has created more red tape, more regulations. And for what? Right? For the greater good, to keep you safe and secure. Kind of like what Justin just said in that audio file, safety and security. Mm-hmm. Who's safety and who's security?
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
And again, ladies and gentlemen, who's safety and security? Okay. My safety consists of this. I want to go home to my house. I want to pay my bills. I want to carry on with my life and thrive. Whether I make it big here on the podcast format, or whether I do get into politics and by chance, by whatever grace of the gods out there watching over me, I get elected, perfect. If not, there's other things that I can do too. But in order for me to accomplish those goals and those tasks and those tests, I, for one, am getting sick and tired of all these little red books and little black books. I'm getting sick and tired of seeing, red tape calling the shots for me and calling the shots for you. I want to see farmers get their product to market, whether it be beef, grain, canola, eggs, pork, poultry. I don't care. I want to see farmers thrive. I want to see people in the lumber industry get ahead too. I want to see people in the oil industry because I am a supporter of Alberta oil and gas, ladies and gentlemen. I know those are dirty words. Oh my goodness, how could you, Crusty Canuck? Oh, how dare you like oil and gas? Well, I like heat in the wintertime. And if I don't get oil and gas, guess what? I'm installing a stove and I'll be chopping some fucking wood. So I think you get my point. Okay? Oil and gas are not dirty words. Freedom aren't dirty words. Okay? Democracy is not a dirty word. Okay? But I'm seeing the more and more of these quals and these regulations keep popping up, like they say about moving the goalposts. Well, that's happening quite a bit too, folks. and our choices are being dwindled. And I think this pandemic has proven it. Okay. Now, if you want to wear a mask, you go ahead and wear a mask. You want to get the shots, you go ahead and get the shots. But now there's also rumblings and projections that there might be, of course, another fourth wave of something. Oh no, a fourth wave, a Lambda variant and a Delta variant, right? Now they start using the Greek alphabet to call these variants. You know, I thought Lambda was a fraternity in Revenge of the Nerds, or was that Lambda? I don't know. But I think you catch my point here. And this is also coming from medical experts that a year ago would encourage you and myself that if you want some sexual satisfaction, that we use a fucking glory hole. Right? So who do we believe when it comes to that? So like I say, ladies and gentlemen, where are the priorities at? Here we have this government that's supposed to have the wits and the know-how of what's going on in today's modern world. And the only priorities is the re-election. That's not a new dynamic. We know this. Okay. But the proof is in the pudding. It's right there as plain as day. It's right in our own backyard. And what are we doing about it? You know, what do we have to do other than vote? What choices do we have? Right? Like I said in the fastball, I don't want to see violence. I don't. But I can feel that there's some rumblings going on. And I can feel that there's some gut aching, soul bending, soul searching issues that might resurface. And it's going to be ugly, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said in the fastball, what do you do when you back a dog into a corner? It's either going to submit or it's going to bite. Is it time for us to bite? Something to think about, ladies and gentlemen. Anyhow, I've been Crusty Canuck on the 13th of July, 2021. It's a nice day outside, so I'm going to take some time out to cut the grass, water the plants, look after my garden, and do what I can just to keep myself, from snapping. No, I won't snap. But I don't want to see good people snap out there too, because we've all come a long way this past year and a half with the regulations and restrictions and seeing fines and all these things. And it's just, what a garbage show. What a gong show. As some of my old instructors we used to say, what a dog's breakfast, right? And really, it's turned out to that. But we shall persevere and we shall overcome. So please stay tuned to my community page on YouTube and my Facebook page for updates on new shows coming up. And like I say, Sundays at 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 6 p.m. Eastern out there to some of those who don't understand time zones. But the Sunday Fastball is still a go. And we'll be discussing national and political and social issues as always. And we'll try to keep it up every Sunday for you too, ladies and gentlemen. And like I say, if you like and hear what you see, please click like, subscribe, and share this all around. Help us independent folk get the words out there. You tell two friends, they tell two friends, and so on and so on. You know how it works. So please click like, share, and subscribe if you can. Thank you. And like I say, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Crusty Canuck on this beautiful 13th of July, 2021. Do what you can to help each other at the best of your abilities. Spend that extra time with a loved one. Help a neighbor out, cut some grass, water some flowers, help someone with groceries, give a few extra bucks to someone who needs it. And let's just try to be decent human beings without worrying about what side of the political fence people live on, or who's going to be the better prime minister, who's going to be the better finance minister. We got to find common ground, and don't buy this narrative of this racial division. I don't buy it at all too. And I've told a lot of my friends, and especially my First Nation friends too, that I'm here. And if you want to talk to me about something, please talk. Don't hesitate. Use my email. All the links are in the description as per. And we still got to strive to find the truth, ladies and gentlemen. Period. We have to find the truth. Like I said, I'm a firm believer in truth and reconciliation. Let's get it done. But it's going to start with us asking the tough questions. All right. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and effort. And once again, thank you to everyone who come out my fastball. You guys are awesome. I want to thank my audience for such a great comments and great queries and points of proof and all that good stuff. And give yourselves a pat in the back for being such a great audience. And I'm grateful that I've had more subscribers come this week too. Give me a thumbs up, please. Carry on. Keep doing what you can and keep sharing this stuff around, because without you, this show would be nothing. So thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen. And like I always say, look after your friends and loved ones. Do what you can to help each other out. And remember, humanity merit wins the day. Take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Hit it, sweetheart. Because I am hard, you will not like me. Yes, sir. There is no racial bigotry here. Here you are all equally worthless.
This has been another episode of the Crusty Canuck podcast. Stay sane and thank you for listening. From Western Canada, this is the Crusty Canuck podcast.